Hey, this is Blank for Reviews, and I'll be doing a video on The Mule, starring Clint Eastwood and Bradley Cooper, about an elderly man who becomes a drug mule in order to raise extra cash for his family. Now, this man also has a history of not showing up to family events and pretty much neglecting his family in order to work, sort of a workaholic. So he decides to make up for it by raising enough money and paying for his granddaughter's education with the money that he makes from drug muling. Now, I was actually very worried that this movie would be terrible because Clint Eastwood's other movies, like latest movies, have been lackluster or downright terrible. So I'm glad to say that this was a great movie, and the acting was great, the pacing was great. It's not as action-packed as you would assume. It has a lot of suspense. It has a lot of great dialogue, great dialogue between the characters. It has decent pacing, but it has violence in there, but it's not as violent as you would assume a cartel movie would be. It's not very gruesome or gritty, but it's still entertaining and fast-paced. There are some scenes where it moves very slowly and it comes to like a real still crawl that could leave you feeling anxious and jit not jittery, but like real anxious and restless because you want to see something else happen. Because there are scenes in this movie where there's a lot of suspense, there's a lot of oh my god, like oh my god, is he gonna get caught? Like, and there's a lot of like creepy characters in here. And then there are other scenes right after those where it comes to like a real standstill that could leave you feeling restless and anxious because you want to get back to like the part where he's driving across state and bumping into trouble here and there. So that could be a problem for some people, especially if they're really. So that can be a problem for some people who are enjoying, like me, I was enjoying like the suspense and the edge of your seat moments, and then all of a sudden it kind of transitions into this really quiet, slow, calmness, and that's something that doesn't happen a lot. That only happens maybe a couple of times in the movie. And that's something that the movie could kind of work on. Might be the problem with the direction or the editing. I think that if the editing was maybe a little better, it could have transitioned into calm scenes from like high-paced, high adrenaline scenes into calm scenes. Well, it could have transitioned a little better if the editing was better, so you wouldn't feel like so it wouldn't feel like a complete 180 and it wouldn't make you feel like restless and anxious and wanting to get back into the action parts or the suspenseful parts. And then, because if it was edited better, it could have, you would have, I don't know, maybe this is just a problem with me and maybe the audience that I was with, but I think some people in my audience didn't really appreciate the calmer scenes because the calm scenes were actually important because it was connected with his family. And his family was like a huge part of why he was a mule in the first place. So those calmer scenes were could have been appreciated more if the editing was a little better when it came to. So yeah, if the editing was better, you could love the action parts but appreciate the calmer parts because they're both very important. But because the way it was edited, yeah, it kind of leaves you restless and wanting to rush through the calmer parts, if that makes sense. Now, one major issue that I had with this movie was the racism, and I know Clint Eastwood is a white supremacist and he likes to put racism in his movies, and some of it was placed appropriately, if that word can even be used. Like it was placed in a way where you could get some humor out of it, but in other places it was just Clint Eastwood being racist. Like he just put that in the script just to get away with calling someone the N-word. There was this one scene where this family, and this isn't a spoiler, this has nothing to do with the main plot, but there's this one scene where this black family was having car trouble and Clint Eastwood stopped his car to help them replace the tire, and he just suddenly called them the N-word casually, as if he was calling in a friendly way, in a quote-unquote friendly way. Although to me it was very passive-aggressive. Yeah, and I just thought that scene was so forced and unnecessary. Like, why even have that scene? Like, I know why they had that scene, because it was to show that Clint Eastwood's character was taking a lot of detours while muling. So I understand why they had that scene in there, but it was so unnecessary, and it was just to highlight. Like, Clint Eastwood just wanted to say the N-word and get away with it, and that was his way of doing it. And a huge shame you to any black person that took part in that role. I know it's really hard to get work as an actor, especially a black actor, but still, there should be some standard to what roles you will accept, because that was pretty degrading, and it kind of took me out of the movie. But overall, this is one of the better movies that I've seen lately. I've seen so many stinkers, so anyway, I give this a 6 out of 10. Thanks for watching.